everyone. My name is Dexter Jenkins. This is my lovely wife, Kendra Jenkins, and we are so excited to be sharing with the Legacy Wealth Playbook Summit. We want to thank Renata Joy and her team who have done a phenomenal job in putting this 3-day event together. I'm quite sure you're getting tremendous value. And our assignment over the next 20 minutes or so is to try to summarize what my wife and I have done over 25 years and give you our definition of legacy wealth. We are senior pastors of Fellowship Christian Church in Boston, Massachusetts. We are also real estate entrepreneurs and podcasters. And we also have a financial education literacy company. And so we've done a number of things, and all of that has been together because of our teamwork. Mm-hmm. And so what we're going to do is give you a brief definition of what we believe legacy wealth is, share with you 3 points on what we think that you can do to build your legacy wealth, and we're going to go from there. You ready, baby?
I'm ready.
All right. Let's define legacy wealth for you. And just our definition of it now. Yours may be different, but that's just ours. And since we're talking, you listen to us. We said legacy wealth is a combination of the lives you are fortunate enough to impact, as well as the money and the material sources that you're able to accumulate. And so what I want you to get out of that definition, or we want you to get out of that definition, is that there is a people side of legacy wealth, and then there's a money side of legacy wealth, meaning you need to have both. And so obviously, your legacy would be your children and your family and other people in your sphere of influence. But then there's also material resources and money. And so I believe, and we believe, that you need to pull both of those together in order to be able to have this thing called legacy wealth. And I know Renata Joy, I've been on her podcast, she's been on my podcast, and so she believes in everything we're talking about, meaning she wants you to have strong relationships, so that means spouses and children and so on and so forth, but she also desires for you to have wealth, and she particularly talks about something that we love very much, real estate. Yes. And so making sure that you are building legacy wealth through this thing called real estate. So what are the 3 keys we are going to share with you that we believe that if you incorporate them into your life, it's going to allow you to create this thing called legacy wealth. So principle number 1 is we want you to become a person of faith. Now we're coming from a Christian perspective. Obviously, we said we're senior pastors of a church. We started Fellowship Christian Church in Boston, Massachusetts. Actually, we celebrate our 10th anniversary this year. And so, but long before that, our faith was at the center of everything that we've done. And so when you look at building a legacy wealth, I would say there that it was almost is impossible for, at least for us, and we believe for people who are watching, for them to not have a build legacy without God being in the middle of that.
Exactly, because without God, we don't have anything. That's our Christian walk. And so for us, it's just really important that we know that God is at the center of everything, because when you put him there, everything works itself out. Right. We've been up through ups, so we've been through downs, had long roads, we've had short roads, but through it all, we always knew that the Lord was with us. Right. So that really kept us going, because we have lived through really hard financial times. Yep. We have lived through, deaths of, loved ones and things of that nature. And through it all, we were able to sustain our marriage, first and foremost, our children, and to build something together, build many things together that have built legacy for our family.
Right. And then you think about what David said. He said, the psalmist said, unless the Lord, he talked about unless the Lord builds a house. Exactly. Well, we can equate a house to your legacy, equate a house to your family. So we've been able to keep God at the center of our marriage, at the center of our family. Yes. Those of you who may be Bible readers, we are obviously we are Christians, as we said, but we built our life off of the Word.
We did.
And so as we built our life off of the Word, it has allowed us to build a legacy and build a solid foundation.
And sometimes it's not popular, right? Sometimes it seems maybe passe or outdated, but honestly, we can say without a shadow of a doubt that us building our family and our legacy around God, it has helped us through every test and trial.
Right.
Absolutely.
I'll say amen on that one. We're not church. We're going to say amen. So that's key number 1. Key number 2 is operate with a spirit of teamwork. And so, what we've desired to endeavor to do as we're talking about building legacy, listen, you'll never be able to build legacy by yourself. You need a team. And so we talked about what our definition. We had a people side of it, right? And we had a money side. Well, you need to establish an environment and atmosphere of teamwork. Now, it's in our marriage, we built a team atmosphere, recognizing that one of the things that we heard a member of our years ago, she sent me an email and said, she responded to the email and said, this is Team Davis. And I said, ooh, that's a nugget there. That's good. And so, from now on, if you ever hear me talking about marriages or even partnerships, but I'm talking about from a marriage perspective, I always talk about this is Team Jenkins or this is Team Davis or this is Team Smith, because it's important that if you're going to build legacy wealth, it comes off you establishing a team environment.
And I think it's vitally important to like hone in on that from a standpoint of sometimes we find, especially when, things get tough, that competition comes into a marriage, and we've never had that.
Right.
It's always been Team Jenkins. It's always been, if he wins, I win. If I win, he wins. And so what tears down marriages a lot, or even teamwork or partnerships where there's, two, good friends going into something or whatever it is, or two family members, as long as you know that that person has your best interest at heart, the tough things and the things that could maybe be misconstrued go away, because like that, I trust them that they would not be trying to hurt me through that. Or I trust them that, sometimes it's not everybody's time to shine.
Correct.
But it is, if one person's shining and another person's sort of taking, quote unquote, the back or doing the administrative work, sometimes, it can come a grind, but everybody has their role in each one of those things. And as long as you keep it there, it all goes well.
And I think you look at, we talk about teamwork, and, we're looking at having a spirit of collaboration versus competition.
Exactly.
Meaning that you have strength that I don't have, and vice versa, things that you do well that I don't even want to do and can't do. And there's some things that,
and
vice versa, you don't want to do and can't do. And so it's this thing of recognizing, and we're talking about legacy, right? And building wealth is, listen, if everybody works together, I heard Magic Johnson say this years ago. He said, everybody can't be called a superstar, but everybody on the team is called a champion.
Everybody wins at the
Everybody
end.
gets a ring. So we're shooting this, probably a few months before this is shot, but when this is shot, this is started, the NBA basketball season had just started. And so I watched the Golden State Warriors get their championship rings. Everybody know who Steph Curry is, but you know what? Even the guy that we don't even know at the end of the bench, he got a ring too.
Exactly.
And so it's this thing of when you establish an environment of collaboration versus competition, everybody wins.
Exactly. And I would say also appreciation.
Right.
So especially in the moments where in our marriage or even in our ministry, most often, he's the senior pastor who's out front more often than I am, and I'm doing the behind the scenes stuff. But without the behind this, I have to recognize that behind the scenes stuff is vitally important. And he recognizes that and tells me that. So therefore, I don't feel like, when I'm doing maybe some mundane task that it's all for nothing, if you will. So there's that appreciation that you have to give to each other, and especially in the hard times when things are tough and things might be blowing up, but just like being able to appreciate each other is vitally important.
And I think privately and publicly.
Yes.
One of the things that I try to do in anything I do, so whether it's in our church or whether it's in our real estate business or whatever else, I always acknowledge you, and always acknowledge that, without my wife, these things would not be able to be possible. And so, what my wife is saying, what Kendra is saying to you is extremely important, that if you are so-called the out front person, which I am most of the time, you need to let everybody else know, listen, I can't do this with our girlfriend. I can't, if it's maybe you're the woman, but he's behind the scenes. I know some people who their wives are out front more so than them, and the guys, I don't want nothing to do with the camera, but I'll play the back. Well, you need to let everybody know, hey, this is not possible without my wife or my spouse. Or if it's a regular partnership, there's some people who may be out front, but this person handles the books well. If you're talking about building legacy, it's all about you establishing teamwork and appreciation and the words, and physically saying, hey, look, I appreciate my wife for doing this. I appreciate my accountant for doing this. And as a leader, because we're talking about legacy, right? As a leader, you always want to give the credit to the team when things are going, when victories are won and things are going well. And you always want to take the blame if things are not going right, because the buck does stop with you. If that makes sense to you. So we've talked about a couple of things. We talked about legacy wealth. We talked about, number one, becoming a person of faith, recognizing that, during the tough times, you're going to need someone and something to lean on. So we for us, it's God, and then also our brothers and sisters in Christ, so on and so forth. And number two, we talked about operate with a spirit of teamwork, meaning This is Team Jenkins. It's collaboration versus competition. It's team together. Everyone achieves more, and so you establishing that if you want to have a legacy, listen. You can do significant things by yourself, but if you want to do things that are multi-generational, that changes lives, that have a legacy, you've got to use teamwork to do it. And then the big one, and number 3 is this. I guess all of them are pretty big, but number 3 is this. Dream when it looks bad.
Yes.
Meaning, there are times my wife alluded to. We've been in foreclosure. We've had one car in a row. We've eaten beans and rice. We fasted involuntarily, meaning, there was no food for us, but the kids ate.
Yes.
So we've done all those things, but what we never stopped doing was dreaming. And I remember my wife and I let her talk more about this. She would always, say that we would get in our car, and she would say that we're going to be the one to change our family's bloodlines. And we've been able to do that thus far. So talk a little bit about that, babe.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things where, especially when you're with the Lord, you can do those things because you know that the situation is temporary. Right. And because it's temporary, you can move past it or look past it. And I think it's one of those things of when the tough times come, A, you're not pointing fingers.
Correct.
And secondly,
that's teamwork.
Because that's teamwork. And also, it's like everybody needs to feel better in those times. So it's like magnifying the good stuff. Right. You know what I mean? Like really saying, honey, I really appreciate this and I appreciate that. But what we did do during those times, we had, it wasn't quite a hoopty, but it was on its way.
Close enough.
And we would drive around and we would, our kids were small and we had the benefit of, we had an older child, so she would stay home with them quite often for us. And so we would take the time to go out and to really just let ourselves drive and dream and to change our bloodline because, to be transparent, I'm from a broken home. My parents divorced when I was 5. We didn't have a lot of money. Your family, has, built themselves up, but in many cases had struggled in some areas and still grew up in the, in the South and things of that nature and had some hindrances there. But we wanted to have it to be so our children would have the ability to dream bigger, because if you don't realize it, if you allow yourself to do it, then others around you are allowing themselves to do it too. So our two daughters and our son have seen what we've built through the church, seen what we've built around businesses and real estate, and now that gives them permission to do it. Right. For you grew up in a multifamily home. I grew up in a single family home. Well, one of the big blessings for us is that we both grew up in homes that were owned, being, there was mortgages, but being owned by our parents. So we saw that. So it was an easy transition for us to buy our house because we knew that was like the next step where a lot of people get stuck in that because they're generationally, their people have always rented and they never had seen themselves as being owners. Able to be owners. But to be able to like break cycles like that and break, I said, my parents divorced when I was 5, your parents had their struggles, but for us to have a strong, healthy marriage, that's legacy. That's legacy.
That's
and
legacy.
That, when you can do that and really have it be authentic and have people to realize that it's achievable and that you can go through hard times and still get through those things and build something big, it allows people to say, and to point, we're supposed to be a witness. And so to point to us to say, like, look at your marriage. How did you get through those times? Some of those things that, money is the biggest reason why people get divorced most often, or disagreements, or either lack thereof or disappointment or disagreements on how to spend it. So it's one of those things where when we were going through our toughest times, my dad came to my husband and he's just like, are you guys going to get a divorce? And my husband's like, no, why would we get a divorce? We'll get another house. We can rebuild what we have, what we've quote unquote lost. So it's one of those things where you have to allow yourself to get out of your surroundings and go somewhere. And we had no money. Right. So like, what is it? Is it taking a walk in the woods? Is it taking a walk down the street? Is it, taking, $5 to put in the gas tank and drive a little bit to look at something different, to get out of your day to day. So that way you can say, you know what? We can dream bigger than this. We can do bigger than this. We're, my husband talks about how we always knew we were capable. We were never people that were like, we aren't able to do this or that. It's just like, we'll figure it out even if we don't know. And that's part of building legacy.
Big time.
When we look at folks and see what they have, they're risk takers. Right. And you need to know about your temperament and see if it is that if you are adverse to risk, you really have to push yourself. And if you're a person who, is more comfortable with it, it'll be easier. But it's one of those things is, nothing that's ever achieved that's
You
big
got
or
to step out.
significant
You got to step
is
out.
easy.
Yeah.
And I would say that know that the journey will be difficult,
challenges.
but it won't be insurmountable.
Right.
And I think that's where the teamwork really comes into play because, if I was down, he'd be up. If
Correct.
he was down, I'd be up. It was never a time where both of us were,
Down.
we're down. And so that way we can encourage each other or go to others and say,
Exactly.
this is what's going on.
Because that's part of your team. They're
And
part of your
have
team.
them to help us.
Yeah, they're part of your team. So your team is obviously in your household, but then your team is also other partners and individuals,
Yep.
even the community that you're building through this summit.
Yep.
You of course sure there's chat and things of that nature going on. Well, you need to get around like-minded people. There's something called the law of association, and you become who you associate with. And getting around other dreamers encourages you. There's this proverb, Proverbs 27:17, that iron sharpens iron,
Right.
meaning that you get around other people who are dreamers. It begins to sharpen your dream. Listen, nothing will snuff out your dream faster than being around someone who's not a dreamer.
Exactly.
You need to get around some people who say, look, it's not impossible for you to go build up. It's not impossible for you to purchase real estate. It's not impossible for you to be a speaker. It's not impossible. And so keeping the dream button alive and keeping a dream, keeping hope alive. Some of you know who Jesse Jackson is. He talked about, I don't know whether I'm not being political, whether you like him or not, that's irrelevant. But, his saying of keep hope alive, or I would say like this, keep your dream alive, is so critical, because if you can keep your dream alive eventually and continue to make steps, do some things we talked about. Number one, become a person of faith. Number two, create a spirit of teamwork. And as you begin to dream and keep that dream button on, you'll be able to leave a legacy for yourself and others. And you'll be able to, maybe one day you'll be able to speak on something like this and encourage someone else.
And I think to that end, make sure you are keeping the people who would squash your dreams far, far away.
Impossible.
Know who
Limit your exposure.
Limit your exposure,
Yeah.
because not everybody's going to understand what you're doing or what you're trying to go for. So keep yourself in that insulated group of people if you can, so that way no one's saying something that will try to throw you off. And it's usually out of love
Yeah,
and
they're not trying to
concern.
be mean.
It's not that they're trying to be mean. It's more that they're trying to. That's where their comfort is, and so they're trying to protect you and make sure that you're going to be okay. And I mean, we've experienced that with our parents. My dad's just like, I just don't understand. And I'm like, that's okay, because it's going to be okay, because you have to have it so deep down in you of what you're going to do that it doesn't really matter who says what.
Yeah.
But also to my husband's point, keep it together, keep the faith switch on.
Right. Well, I think that concludes our talk. I know one of the things that I've been taught is you don't never want to overstay your welcome. So Team Jenkins, we don't want to overstay our welcome, but we have been asked to give you a free resource. So if you desire to learn more about us, you can go to my website, dexterbjenkins.com. Go to dexterbjenkins.com. And on my website, I have something I call the 3 ships of wealth building. And I have found that the 3 ships of wealth building stands for stewardship, ownership, and entrepreneurship. I call it the secret sauce to building wealth. You know anything about secret sauce? They're really simple. Well, there's simplicity in the building wealth. And so that ebook, you download that, and you'll get that. And actually what you'll do is get on our email list. I send out a weekly email every Thursday to encourage you, because I want to stay in contact with you. You also can look us up on all social media, Dexter B. Jenkins, across everything, and we will be all good. So hopefully this has encouraged you, and hopefully this has given you 3 keys that will allow you to be able to build legacy wealth. Be blessed until the next time. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.